I'll never forget the last time I went to Haven Springs Spa. In a small town, known more for its nature trails and quaint shops, Haven Springs was a hidden gem for those who knew where to look. It wasn't flashy or modern like the big city spas, but it had a certain old-world charm. It had been around for decades, nestled between a thick pine forest and a quiet river that wound its way through the valley. The building was an old converted mansion, sprawling and eerie in a way I never really noticed until after what happened. I had been going there for years, always enjoying the way it felt like a sanctuary from the stresses of life. The moment you stepped inside, the world outside seemed to melt away. There were no windows in the massage rooms or steam areas, just soft, dim lighting, calming music, and the smell of lavender and eucalyptus that hung heavy in the air. The owners claimed that the spa had special healing properties due to the natural springs running beneath the building. Some people swore by it, saying that a single visit could rejuvenate you, heal old injuries, and even lift your spirits in a way nothing else could. I didn't put much stock in that sort of thing, but I couldn't deny that it worked wonders for me. After a stressful week, a few hours at Haven Springs would leave me feeling like a new person. So when I saw they were offering a new exclusive treatment package called the Restoration Ritual, I couldn't resist booking it. The spa was known for having unusual treatments, mud baths, salt scrubs, and obscure massages that you couldn't find anywhere else. But this one was different. The brochure promised a once-in-a-lifetime experience, designed to rejuvenate the body, mind, and soul. It was pricey, but I figured if it was anything like their other treatments, it would be worth every penny. The day of my appointment, the sky was a dull gray, the clouds hanging heavy with the threat of rain. It felt unusually cold for late autumn, and the wind that whipped through the trees as I drove up the long, winding road to the spa gave me an uneasy feeling I couldn't shake. But I told myself it was just nerves. I was excited for the treatment after all. When I arrived, the place seemed emptier than usual. There were only a few cars in the gravel lot, and the building felt quieter than I remembered. The receptionist, a pale woman I'd never seen before, greeted me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She handed me a white robe and slippers and directed me to the changing rooms, her voice flat and monotone. The usual staff, people I'd come to know by name, weren't there. Instead, there were new faces everywhere, all wearing the same expressionless, hollow look. Something about it unnerved me, but I tried to brush it off. People came and went from places like this all the time. I was just being paranoid. The first part of the restoration ritual was a mineral soak in one of the spa's private bathhouses, a small room with a large marble tub filled with steaming water. The water had a faint metallic smell, something I hadn't noticed during my other visits. The woman who escorted me in said it was from the natural springs below the building, that the minerals were part of what made Haven Springs special. I nodded and slipped into the tub, the heat immediately relaxing my muscles. The woman gave me a small smile before leaving the room, shutting the heavy wooden door behind her. I lay there for what must have been an hour, the warm water soothing every ache and tension in my body. But after a while, I started to feel strange. At first, it was just a vague discomfort, like the air was getting heavier, thicker. Then the room felt smaller, like the walls were closing in. The heat that had felt so good earlier now felt oppressive, almost suffocating. I sat up in the tub, my skin prickling with goosebumps despite the warmth. That's when I noticed the water. It wasn't clear anymore. The surface had grown murky, the once soft scent of minerals now tinged with something sour, metallic. I leaned closer, squinting, and realized that the water wasn't just murky. It was dark, too dark, almost black. A sudden panic gripped me, and I scrambled to get out of the tub. My hands slipped on the slick edges, and I nearly fell as I pulled myself up, water sloshing onto the floor. I grabbed the towel hanging by the door and wrapped it around myself, breathing hard. My heart was racing, but I didn't know why. It was just water, right? Maybe they added some new minerals to the treatment, something I wasn't used to. I tried to calm myself, telling myself that it was all part of the experience. But the unease clung to me as I dressed and headed to the next part of the ritual. The steam room. The hallway leading to the steam rooms was long, dimly lit, and colder than it should have been. The soft music that usually played in the background was absent, replaced by a low, humming sound that seemed to come from the very walls. As I walked, I realized that I hadn't seen another guest since I'd arrived. No one passing in the halls, no one lounging in the common areas, just the new staff, watching me with their two wide eyes and those same thin, empty smiles. When I entered the steam room, a blast of warm, moist air hit me, instantly fogging my vision. The room was thick with steam, so much that I could barely see a few feet in front of me. The air smelled faintly of eucalyptus and something else, something damp and earthy, like rotting leaves. I found a bench in the corner and sat down, trying to relax, but the strange smell kept nagging at me. After a few minutes, I heard the door open. I squinted through the mist, expecting to see another guest, but there was no one there. The door closed again with a soft click, leaving me alone in the thick fog. The room seemed quieter now, the air heavier than it had been before. I tried to shake the growing feeling of dread and leaned back against the wall, closing my eyes. That's when I heard it. A faint whisper, almost inaudible at first, like someone breathing just behind me. My eyes snapped open, but the room was empty. The whisper came again, soft, unintelligible, but close, too close. I shot up from the bench, heart pounding. The steam clung to my skin, thick and suffocating. I moved toward the door, but the whispering grew louder, a chorus of voices now, rising in pitch. They were all around me, coming from the walls, the ceiling, even the floor beneath my feet. I fumbled for the door handle, my hands slick with sweat. The whispering turned into a low, guttural chant. Words I couldn't understand, but felt deep in my bones. Finally, I yanked the door open and stumbled into the hallway, gasping for breath. The hallway was darker now, the low humming sound from earlier replaced by a slow, rhythmic thudding, like a heartbeat pulsing through the walls. I leaned against the wall, trying to catch my breath, but the air felt thick, heavy with a strange, acrid smell. My skin itched, and when I looked down, I saw faint, red marks, like scratches, on my arms and legs. I turned to head back to the front desk, to demand an explanation for whatever the hell was happening. But when I reached the main lobby, it was empty. No receptionist, no staff, no one. The soft, ambient music had stopped completely, replaced by a deafening silence that pressed down on me like a weight. I rushed to the front doors, but they wouldn't budge. The glass, which usually allowed a view of the peaceful woods outside, was now dark, as if night had fallen without me noticing. Panic clawed at my throat as I banged on the door, shouting for anyone to hear, but my voice sounded muffled, swallowed by the thick air around me. That's when I felt it, a presence behind me, cold and oppressive, like a shadow that moved without light. I didn't want to turn around, but something compelled me to, like an invisible hand gripping my spine and forcing me to face it. Standing at the far end of the lobby was a figure. At first, I thought it was one of the staff, but as my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I realized it wasn't human, at least not anymore. Its skin was pale and waxy, stretched tight over a gaunt, skeletal frame. The eyes were hollow, black pits, and its mouth hung open in a silent scream, revealing a gaping void where its throat should have been. The figure moved toward me, slow and deliberate, its bare feet leaving wet, dark stains on the floor as it walked. I backed away, my legs trembling, but there was nowhere to go. The doors were locked, the windows dark. The air around me thickened, and the chanting I'd heard in the steam room returned, louder and more insistent. I stumbled backward, falling to the floor as the figure loomed over me. Its hand reached out, long, bony fingers stretching toward my face. I could smell the rot on its breath, feel the cold radiating from its skin. Then everything went black. I woke up hours later, or at least, I think it was hours. I was lying on a massage table, wrapped in a warm towel, the soft sound of ambient music playing in the background. The lights were soft and dim, and the familiar scent of lavender filled the air. For a brief moment, I thought it had all been a dream, a vivid nightmare brought on by stress. But when I sat up, I saw the scratches on my arms, the faint red lines that hadn't been there before. The lobby was still empty, the spa deathly quiet. I left without looking back, abandoning my robe and slippers in the hallway as I bolted for the door. This time, it opened easily, the cool night air hitting my face like a slap. I never went back to Haven Springs after that. I don't know what happened in that spa or what they were trying to do with their restoration ritual, but I still have the marks to prove it wasn't just my imagination. Some places are meant to stay hidden, and some treatments aren't worth the price.